Howdy, folks. Kevin here. I never know how to get that the go live started. I don't know if there's a delay or something. It looks like there's a delay, so sorry about that. But I'm gonna do a live stream right now of basically working on the chapter exercises for my book. So at the end of these chapters, and I'm also going to give you a little bit of a preview into how I'm writing this book. I'm using Markdown. I'm using a program called Quiver. It's kind of like Evernote if you have used Evernote, just a little bit different. One nice thing is that you can export and you can write in Markdown and export in Markdown, and it converts it to text and all that kind of stuff. So that's what this program is, and I've got all my chapters here, plus a couple of things that I wanted to do and things that I'm no longer going to do but wanted to keep around for reference. Anyway, this is chapter 2.1, just to show you an example. So this is all the content of the chapter. And then at the very bottom, we have a chapter challenge that basically says, we talked about expect assertion. There are two others that Chai offers. Try the should and assert styles with our test to see how they work. And then go out to the chapter challenge code solutions, which is at the very bottom here. And you can see here, this is the example of the should style and the assert style. And so that's basically a way to add a little bit more practice for folks without me having to do explanation of how to do everything. So it's kind of a challenge for you to figure out, and I'll show you how I solved it at the end. So I have these answers for 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. I get a little long there. 5, 6, and then it stops at 2.6. And thing is, I don't stop at 2.6. I still have 3 more chapters, so I need to write exercises for those chapters. 2.7. So in 2.7 we talk about managing user sessions, generic page objects, and all that. I'm just going to skip down because I do have a chapter challenge or a chapter exercise, and I started calling them exercises at one point, and they really should be called chapter challenges. Let me make sure here. Scroll down. Okay, so I call it chapter challenge there. Hopefully you don't get tired of me saying that. So rather than use the add command, update the auth page object to have the login via API functionality. And if you bear with me for just 1 second, I'm going to turn on some background music for myself, not for you. I don't, I've heard loud and clear over the comments. I used to do background music for folks, and they did not like it, which I can't blame you. I stopped doing it, but the comments came in continuously of please stop with the background music. So no more background music for you, background music for me though, hopefully. Yeah, I don't see any audio coming through. Okay, so in this we talk about the add command. So I'm gonna open up my auth page, auth.users. Oh, I don't have it set up here. That's weird. Oh, gosh. I closed out all my applications yesterday because I was doing that other live stream and it was super laggy. So I closed everything down and now I've got to open it all back up. WDI book examples. Come on. Come on. You can see it's 93%, 94% right now. Not great. Okay, that's taking a long time. There. Okay. In here, I have my test folder. So let's just do that. This is going to open up a new WebDriver or Sublime text project. But now I can do auth.page. It opens a new, I'm going to close that, a new project, and it ties it to that directory. So st I shortcutted for Sublime Text, and then if you pass a dot, it'll open up a blank project with that folder added. So now I can access anything in this folder, which is really nice. So I wanted the auth page. In here, I also want the configuration. So in this chapter, we created a command called login via API. And if I search, that command gets added in the before hook. So what I wanted to do was say, instead of using login via API as a command that you would use, add it as a function on the auth page. So that's pretty easy. I'm basically going to cut all that out. Come on over here and change that to login via API. And what login API does is I have a login function, but that requires going to the page itself and taking all these actions. Login VPI instead calls the API to get the auth token from an API call, then loads the page, then runs an execute to store the ID token, the token under the ID token local storage area. So that's what that does. Give me just a second. I need to send a quick message. Okay. So if you just joined, I'm looking through examples, or building out examples. And the next thing I want to do, building out examples for my book. I have this problem where I say half sentences and don't finish them. So that's not great. The first step, so switch login via API command to the auth, maybe move object. Let's headings. I need to have a name for this, but I'll come back to that. So steps 1, copy the function from the actually move the function from the configuration always kind of weird doing formatting here with numbered lists, and then you want code inside of that. But anyway, that looks pretty good. That's fine. That's fine. And so the reason why I have this example in here is, or the reason why I'm showing how to do this is just to show you one other way of setting up. So you can, I'm a little bit torn on which I prefer, having this API function as part of the auth page object or having it as a custom command. I kind of prefer it as a custom command. So let me show you how that looks in one of my tests. Let's see, home. Here's my test. I get a user from my fixtures. I pass it into this login via API function, and then I load it. So instead, that would be auth.login via API. I kind of like it as a custom command. I don't know. What do you think? What do you prefer? Right now, I prefer it as a custom command, but it can go either way. And that's kind of why I wanted to show it, and why I wanted to have it as an example, is that it can go either way. So I'm going to paste in this entire thing. Then I need to come in here and other auth stuff goes here. This is another issue I have with my examples, is this auth page object is what, 50 lines long, or yeah, 50 lines long. I don't want to host or put all of that in there. So I want to put a comment basically saying, hey, there's other auth code there, or there's other code there. And I do this with test as well. And it's just, I don't know, it's not super elegant, and it bothers me a little bit because I can see how people can get confused by that. So I wish I had a better answer to that. But move the function. So that's the first step. Step two is to update references in the test to switch browser dot to off dot. And I'm not going to actually show our 2 steps to change. Personally, I prefer the I can't make this text any bigger. Sorry if it's hard to read. So, yeah, that's basically it. Not too complicated unless I'm missing something. But it is what it is. Okay, so let's jump back over to here. One thing I don't like about this program is it doesn't save your spot. So every time you switch, so if I go back there, it jumps me all the way back to the top. And I have to scroll all the way back down. So that's kind of annoying, but okay, got that. Number 2, update the editor test to use this new function, but not the login file. I mean, that's kind of already done. Okay, so that's it. That's the challenge. It's not a super long challenge. API login. And the goal of these challenges isn't for them to be super long, just to get you thinking in a different way. And so yeah, that's that. Oh, I forgot I can add a title to this page, to these files, and that is auth.page.js. And it's JavaScript, and there we go. Gotta do title case. Okay, so that's 2.7. Do 2.8. Creating page components. And I gotta open a soda. Okay, down to the bottom of this page, we have, and I'm actually gonna copy this over, and that should be chapter challenge. Is it chapter challenges or is it chapter challenge? Chapter challenge. Good. Scroll down here. That's not right. Make a tags class that can be used to more easily get the tags array and contents. Create a set of tests for the user profile test. This is a larger exercise. Tags page object. Bear with me just a second. Oh, wow. Why did it do that? That's so weird. Widescreen. There we go. I'm messing with my picture because I should have done this before. But I'm like super washed out. Not crazy about it. That's that. Whoa. Over the brightness some. Kind of bright. Oh, it's dark. I can't get my lighting right. It's too blue. Oh well. I need to stop messing with it. Okay. Just want to do that. That's a little bit better. Back to actual code. Let me see. What are we doing? Tags page objects. So I'm going to bring up the demo website so you can see what's going on here. Each article can have tags, and when you're writing the article, so like a demo tag, when you're writing the article, you can change those tags. In this test, let me jump back into here. So it says tags array and contents. See 2.8 page components. I'm trying to remember what I talk about in this this chapter. So that's tabs. Dynamic content testing is one important thing. Let's see, waiting to load. Look, I think somewhere down here, feed page component. Recent articles, we talk about how to testing feed content. Yeah, and we start talking about, if I jump back over here. Oh, I don't have it. Okay. So I have this feed, and in this feed I have tags. And in my test, I check the author, date published, things like that. I don't test the tags itself. I do get the tags. Let me see. I do get tags, but I don't actually assert it. So I get the tags from that article preview, but I'm not doing an assertion on them because it is tricky to do. And I didn't want to spend even more time in this chapter. And we got a question. I want automatic CAPTCHA entry and time killer software. Automatic CAPTCHA entry is not going to happen. The whole point of CAPTCHA is so that it's not, you're not able to do it via a computer. So that is, if it's an older type of CAPTCHA, they've improved the on-screen text rendering or on-screen text reading to where you can kind of get around it. But honestly, you're not going to have an easy time if you're using something like Google reCAPTCHA or one of the newer CAPTCHA ones. You're just not going to be able to automatically enter CAPTCHA information. So you'll need to either have a flag on your website that if it's like a staging website, to not have the CAPTCHA on the page or have a way around it. Otherwise, have a pause in your tests to where you can manually enter that CAPTCHA. But yeah, CAPTCHAs are not a fun thing to have to work around. Hi, Luis. Thanks for saying hi. And yeah, I'm excited about this book. It is coming together, and hopefully I can get these chapter challenges done. Okay, so I need to go into the home test, and you'll see this is the test that I'm finished on. So what we do is we check the personal feed. So I'm not logged in. I'm not logged in here. I can log in. Where is it? Users. And don't worry, this is all public data. So in theory, you shouldn't be able to do anything too terrible. So it clicks your feed, and then it'll bring up this article. And what we wanted to do was test that there are tags there, and I don't even have any tags on that article. So that's not ideal. Let's see. Yeah, this is definitely one of the more complicated tests out there. Let's take a look at this articles.getDetails function. So we have, that's under the current feed. And I'm gonna have to skip through explaining what this all is, but we have a feed, we have articles. I create an article preview. And then under here I have this tags reference. So if I go back to the global feed, it's going to grab this section. So if we jump back over here, we get the data QA type tag list. So that matches the tag list there. And then we get the LIs underneath it. So this would return two elements, this element and that element. And if you saw under my feed, I have two articles. I have the double $ articles. That returns just the WebDriver IO elements. And then I have another one called, that doesn't have the double $signs, that returns a new page object or a page component called an article preview. So I can essentially copy that over. I'm going to say get tags now. And we're going to grab the tags. We're going to grab a tag and say new tag. So we can do that. I want to make a tags class that can be used to more easily get the tags array and contents. So I'm thinking right now about what I actually meant by this. I might delete this example because for one, I forgot what I was talking about, which happens. The second thing is there aren't any tags on here. I don't know, maybe that's a good thing to show what happens if you don't have any tags and you have an empty array. How do you handle that? Let me do some reading. Well, we could copy paste the test code from before, helper function. Plus, the other thing about it is that this set of tests for the user profile page is going to be pretty complicated. Let's go there. Yeah, I'm just going to make life easier on me. Test should validate that. Okay. Username is shown top of page. So I can click unfollow and it changes, and then follow and it changes. 2 tabs are shown. My articles and And then inside of that, the content. Right, content. Content for those tabs is correct. You got it. I want to enter into a website directly with automation. Can you say software name or script? Sorry. No worries. I welcome questions. That's why I do a live stream instead of just doing this on my own. So you asked, you want to enter directly with automation. I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but WebDriver IO should do that. And it's what I talk about on this channel a ton. If you are just doing automation and not testing, I would check out Puppeteer. And I do have a video demo on that if you're interested. Yeah. Search Puppeteer Kevin, maybe? Oh, that's getting risky. Puppeteer form submission. There it is, that one. So if you search that, it'll bring up this one where I go through that. So yeah, feel free to have a watch of that, and that's if you only need to do basic automation, enter text. If you're not worried about testing anything, Puppeteer is good for that. It's a lot more lightweight. Okay, back to what's going on here. So I'm going to write a test that does these things. So what I need to do is, where are we at? I will undo that because I don't want to worry about that. I have the article, I have the preview. I need to jump into my home.page. And I want to see, let's see. That's almost the same. You have the two tabs here. It's slightly different. So I'm trying to figure out if I want to create a brand new page or extend this home page. I do want this click tab. I want to reuse this click tab function because when I click the tab, you can see it says loading articles for just a second. And then it'll either say no articles here or it'll show you the article. So I want to reuse that. And I also want to reuse this load. Let me see. What did I do for the tags page? Maybe this is... So in the next chapter, I talk about creating a tags page where I test this page. And it's kind of the same thing as what's going on the home page. And so I talk about how you can reconcile. See how it extends home? So I was going to think about extending home for this personal feed. But I was also thinking, well, home is going to have like this popular tag section. It's not going to have that heading, right? It's a little bit different. So I don't know. I'm not sure about this example. It's the thing I'm not sure about is that it's pretty complex, and we kind of haven't talked about some of the items yet. So I'm almost considering, actually I'm very much considering moving this example to the next page, or the next one. Create a set of tests for the user profile page. Yeah, I like that a lot better. So I'll scroll down here. going to be 2.9. Public user profile page tests. Move that there. And then what I could do is I could actually, I know I deleted it before, but I can move that tags example up to 2.8, which wouldn't be bad. Make a tags class that can be used to more easily get the tags array and contents. Now I need to remember if I was talking about this popular tags section or the tags here. So I'm going to jump back to 2.8 and okay, creating page components, checking the active tabs. I still have those tags there. Link favorite. I'm going to look through my test. So in my test, I checked the personal feed. The only one that I really test here is showing the most recent article first. So what would I like to see? I would like to see to have properties tags of nothing, because that first article on my feed does not have any tags. So get details is part of the article preview. I mean, in theory, that would actually work right now. So what it does, it goes through the tags, gets the text for each tag, trims it if it is anything. And because there aren't any tags, I wonder what that would return. Let's see. So I'm going to do an only here. I'll just leave all that. Let's see what that returns. So I'll save that. Sites, book examples, npx.wdio, and I'll run the spec equals home.js. Let's see if I remember how this works. Okay. Chrome driver, you make me upset. The reason you make me upset is that you're always out of date with the version of Chrome I have running. No, I don't want to update you yet. I do need to. Yes, I can update that. Yes, I need to update that. No. No. Okay. So what I just ran is a npm tool called npm upgrade. And it'll look through your dependencies and check to see if you have any that are out of date. And if you do, it'll ask you whether you want to update it or not. So all these WebDriver IO packages need to be updated from 5 to 6, but I need to do a lot of work to get that to happen. All I really wanted to do was update Chrome driver from 81 to 83. So that's what I just did there. It's a neat little tool, npm upgrade. And then I'm running npm nuke. This is a custom alias that I have that basically deletes the package lock file, deletes the node modules file, and then runs npm install again. So it's a good way of completely reinstalling all your dependencies and without having to worry about things getting left behind. Okay, while that runs, I keep looking at this. I also want to think about what else I can test here. I could test the popular tags section. It's not going to be too complicated. And at the top of the file, we are creating page components. We talk about the active tabs on the page. That's not done yet. I could make this example exercise be as simple as write an assertion that all the tags exist. The problem with this is you could have a ton of tags in here, and how do you know that the tags are right? Or how are you going to pass in what tags should be on the page? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. And if you have like 50 tags on the page, I wouldn't want that in my test. I could pull it from the API. So if I go to my network and reload, somewhere in here should be a tags call. And you see it calls out to the API. Why did you... So see how that said options? Sometimes you'll have multiple calls to the same endpoint. So you gotta look for the one that says get. And there's my response. So I can get the tags there. That's a pretty good demo example. I kind of like that. And I think I should have done enough with the API. Use the API to get the tags to be shown. So I'm thinking about this. So what we would do is I would, in my test, describe logged in, anonymous, should load, should only it should show popular. Okay, we have another question. Your book will talk about running your test on cloud services only, or will you dedicate some chapter on how to do your own infrastructure with open source tools? The book does not talk about cloud services. That's a very important thing to cover, but I wanted to keep the contents pared down, mainly for time for me to get this book finished so that I can go back to working on the course, to updating my course. It does talk about how to do your own infrastructure with open source tools. So there are some tools out there like Selenium, Z-A-Lenium. That's a basically a Selenium grid that you can use, and it's pretty neat. I've wanted to use it many times. I've just never, aside from running it locally, I haven't gotten it set up on a specific infrastructure. So yeah, I've seen it. I've run it locally. I've never done it in reality or in the real world. It is pretty nice. Let me link to that. I don't plan on covering either of those in the book because it's really complicated to talk about. I'm trying to focus this specifically on how to test web apps outside of the more infrastructure related things. Yeah, and I don't cover any third-party tools in the book as far as like Sauce Labs or Browser Stack. I don't go into that, not because it's not important, just because I don't have time for it. But it is something that I plan on having in the course. Plus, it's the other issue with covering these third-party tools is that their interface changes once or twice a year, and so you can write a full tutorial on how to use Sauce Labs or anything like that, and then a month later and it's completely messed up because they redid their interface and everything, or they turned on a feature, or then they somehow changed the way features work. So it's kind of annoying to spend all that time making something polished and working only to have it lost because they made updates, and you don't know when they're going to make the updates. So you could be in the middle of it and then all of a sudden they make the updates, and now all those videos that you're working on no longer work or are out of date. So that's frustrating. That's why I want to keep it out of the book, is because I want the book to be able to last for longer than 6 months. And even today it's already somewhat out of date because it's using version 5, and I need to update it to version 6, which is going to be one of the next things I do. Okay, back here. Use the API. Use the API to get the tags to be shown on the publisher. Hint. And so let me see here. All we do is we hit endpoint will be tags. Actually, I'm gonna move that here. Don't forget the comma there. I've never realized that you need to have that comma there after EG. I always had just EG. Nope, it needs comma. I want to see here if I have to send a token, and if it's just a GET request. I think this popular tags, I think popular is not actually true. I think it's just tags. I don't think there's any limit to the tags that are returned here. That shouldn't really matter, but okay. I want to see if I can make this request. So let's see, without any authorization. So that's good to know. I can just do a curl, and then I hit that endpoint, and it returns the object of tags with the elements in it. And this is definitely going to be a challenge that is going to be very challenging, because you need to understand that. You need to understand how this API works and how you can get the content back from it. With that data, add a test that asserts those tags are properly shown. Yeah, I foresee a lot of questions about that. Validating the And that's the problem with these exercises is they can, I need them to be complex enough to be worthwhile and not just too easy. But I also don't want them to be too complicated where I'm asking you to do something that I haven't talked about. In this case, we have talked about using the API. I do have a API utility that can get the auth token, that can create an article, that can delete an article. Although creating an article and deleting an article I haven't done yet, but I do have the get auth token. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come here. And that's the other problem with doing these exercises after the fact, is that I have code from later chapters that get tags. So I'll just do that. I don't need a token. I'm going to do this.client.get tags, and I'm not going to pass anything in there. And const tags response return, and this needs to be an await. So this is a promise that gets returned. I'm going to use an await to wait for that promise to finish being returned. And then if you, I'm not going to do two returns. If you see, it returns an object that has an array on it. So I want to just return that array and not the object. So I need to do tags.response, which would be the object. And then I'll pass the tags property back. Get tags. So I hope that works. Let me see. Step. In your, that's weird formatting. In your API.js file, add a new function. Make the API call. Don't need to worry about the auth token. Not required. Return just the array. I think I might have to do dot body here. And just to be sure, I'm going to do that. Okay. Now back in my test, I'm going to do dot only. I'm going to get rid of, oops, get rid of that update that I made. No, I'm going to run it. Okay. Login via API. Trying to remember how I used the create article. That was in a before hook. Yeah, that's how I did it. Okay. I'll call that API tags. It's not the best, but get tags. This global.api, yeah, you'd have to read the book. Sorry, it's not super helpful, but I'm gonna log that out. Yeah, I don't really have time to talk to it too much, but basically that API object, it's a class. It gets instantiated with the URL and everything, and it gets stored to my global or my global object, Node.js object. Okay, get the tags from the API should exist from the API. And then I'm just going to log that out. I'll worry about asserting the tags on the page in a minute. Now we're going to run you. And it's actually going to run this test as well, because I do want to see if this works. Because if it does work, I can just add it to my examples. Uh-oh. Oh, man. Oh, I really don't want to start Docker. Okay. Poo. I need a way to quickly switch between my local server and my demo production server. The problem I have is I don't talk about that in the book, and so I don't want to include it in the examples. Yeah. Yep. It is what it is. So I'm going to comment that out. Come over here, add that back in. Is that the right URL? No. Why was I on that page? Ugh. Just gonna bold that. No, it is not the right URL. Okay, there. Now let's try that. I think I have a video on multiple sites, if you're interested, how I would handle this without just commenting out. Oh, that's nice. Expected to have property tags of an empty array, but instead it got an empty array. That's helpful. Ay. Okay, the tags did come back from 89. Where was that? Here? Here, those tags are correct. So that's good. To have property... Oh, man. Arrays are tricky because what's happening is it's trying to say, is this array the exact... Is this array exactly this array? So if you have two people named Bob, you can have an assertion of, say, is the name Bob equal to the name Bob? Well, that's true. But in this instance, we're saying, is Bob the same person as this other person named Bob? And so that's kind of what's going on. So is this array the exact same? Is it also this array? So it's basically you have two arrays that look exactly the same, but they're not the same because they're two different arrays, just because they look the same. So what you usually do is, see, it says here that fails, even though they're exactly the same, and that's because they're different arrays. And it's just a weird part of how assertions are, because if you said expect 1 to equal 1, it would return true because they do equal, even though the one that you pass into the expect is not the exact same one. So it is, yeah, frustrating. Now, the way to get around that is to use this either deep equal or EQL, and that will just check the values. But the trouble is, here I'm using this to have property, to include. So how does he do that for to deep include? That's talking about objects. I don't need objects, I need arrays. So in this example, I'm using to have property, and I could do dot tags to equal, or not equal. I could do that, but I don't like how it switches format. Got another question. Is basic JavaScript knowledge enough in order to become an automated tester? Yes, it is. WebDriver IO makes things a lot simpler for you without having to jump too much into getting a knowledge around JavaScript. You will have to learn coding, the basics. But I believe in my book, trying to think if I include a link to anything in the book, but it is enough. You can definitely get into a lot more complicated examples. So one thing that I cover in my book are how to do page objects. Where did you go? There. How to do page objects using classes and using extends. And I do try to explain that from somebody who is new to this, new to coding in general, so that it's a little bit easier for you to understand, to try and help walk you through it. Technical details. There. Yeah, I linked to JavaScript Basics courses. Some must-know JavaScript features as well. I don't know why my internet's so slow. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm doing the streaming. Yeah, so here they go through a few things in what you can know. You don't. You do want to know about destructuring. Generators you don't really need to know about. You do want to know about that. You do want to know about async await. Chaining is good. Iterators, I'm not sure about that being a must-know thing. Yeah, so if you want, go there and then jump to the technical details section. And you're going to have to go over a page and it'll be there. So yeah, that's this beginner JavaScript course is, I believe, put out by Wes Boss. Yep, that's his style. And he does amazing training, so I highly recommend it. It will get you going with everything you need to know about JavaScript. The thing is, this is more about JavaScript in general, so it's going to be less focused on, or not really focused on coding, but it's a good course and it will help get you started up. If you want a free course, JavaScript 30 is another option, and that's free, and it's 30 days of different JavaScript exercises. Okay, back to it. So I need to go to the Chai website. Then I'm going to the API. Expect and have property. So that's normal. To have deep property. So in theory, I can change this to have deep property, and that should work. Take that only out. I'm going to run this test real quick and make sure that works. That's one difference between the course that I made and this book, is I wanted to take more of a beginner approach to this book, because that was a lot of feedback that I got, was I want to learn this, but I don't have the coding skills yet. Can you link me to coding skills? And when I made the course, I did make the assumption that you had coding skills to handle the more complex exercises, and the reason for that was I needed to not cover every single thing. So I don't cover necessarily the basics of JavaScript, but I cover how to use JavaScript to achieve certain tasks. So I do walk through the code itself, the JavaScript code itself, without the assumption that you know what a map does. So I talk through what the map command does, or not really command, the map function does. So, okay, that worked. So to have deep property, let's add that in to my test. Where did you go? Okay, that's that. Now I want to jump back over to this example, and once I get this example done, I'm going to call it a day and go have some lunch, because it's lunchtime. So I have the API tags. Now I need to expect home dot. Well, let's see. What do I want to do? Get. I'm gonna. I'm going to inspect this element and I suspect if I search for tag lists, see how there's two different tag lists? Oops. Yeah, there's multiple tag lists. So I can't target this by the tag list. So I can't use this class to target it, because the class is also used here, here, and here. When I came up with these examples, or when I was working on these on this, I had added these custom attributes, and here I don't have any custom attributes. So what I need to do is okay, looks like it's reconnected. Sorry about that hiccup. Okay, back to it. I have Ethernet plugged in. Oh. I've got a good connection. Weird. Okay. Anyway, what I was saying is you can use XPath to find something based off of text. So in WebDriver IO, you can use a text selector. So I could do, where are you? Okay, sorry. I could do, jump back here, there. That's just a paragraph. It really should be a heading, whatever. I can do p equals popular tags. That will return that paragraph, but I don't want the paragraph. I want the div that's next to it. In CSS, you can do an adjacent selector. But the problem is this is CSS. This is custom WebDriver IO stuff. So you can't really combine the two. In XPath, you can, though. And to do that, I can get the text. So I can do... I learned in here you can add selectors, and it will find the selectors for you. Popular tags. There we go. So here's my XPath selector, and now it's highlighted that section. So if I do, how do I do sibling? Descendant, order, other things. So that's the text. Siblings. So in CSS, yeah, you do the plus or that. I would use following sibling. So I come back here, I paste that in, and I do div. I would like to use a class, but it turns out in XPath, using a class is really complicated if you want to do the specific class. Yeah, because you have to basically get the attribute and it's going to return all the classes. Yeah, it's more complicated than you would hope. Yeah, so I also would like to see this to be a UL and then LIs, because they have, if you look here, that's what they do. They have a UL and LIs. Why didn't they do that there? Oh, semantics. Okay. Yeah. Dot map. So this is gonna, oh, and then I don't need the div. I need the links below it. Descendant selector. So just /a. Double check on that. There we go. And that needs to be double $, because it's doubly. Tag dot. Oh, nice. I forgot I have this thing called get trimmed text. I should have used that here. Oh no, not here. Maybe. What does get trimmed text do? Get trim text takes an element, runs get text /trim on it. So in here, I could have done get trimmed text and pass in that. Okay. Switch article preview get details function to use util. Yeah. So basically I have a utility that calls get text dot trim, and I use it just to convert using this style to using that style. It saves some code. I'm really torn on it. I'm torn on so many things with how best to do it, because it does complicate. You have to know what get trimmed text does, where it lives and all that. But Alternatively, now you have to write this code again and again and again and again. So I don't know. I don't know where I stand on it. Anyway, let's get this home.popularTags right to equal API tags. And I want to see when I load this page, yeah, popular tags doesn't have anything to begin with, but the load function of my home does wait for that to load. Gosh, I just wonder if this could load before that. I really think it could. So I think what I need to do, I don't know. I don't know if I need to add a wait in there or not. I think if it were a real example, like if I was doing this for work, I don't even know if I would do this for work. Technically, it could fail if the tags load slower than the articles. Tags should load super fast for one. The other part is that in our test itself, we're making an API call as well. So we load the page, then we make the API call. In theory, that should mean that these tags have loaded before our API call comes back. And then if you see, let me do something. I'm going to slow down this page render. Network conditions. I'm going to slow this down and refresh. Okay, I want to see. Did you see that? Did you see if tag lists what was in it? Maybe try offline. Okay, so that's a little trick I use. I go offline. You have to time it just right, but it basically stops the page load at that moment. The tags list does exist, which doesn't make me happy. I'm curious if there aren't any tags that get returned, what gets shown in here. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the source code. Of view real world example app. I'm going to the source, into components, and we have a tag list. Yeah, there's nothing in here. Well, that's different tag list. I need to go to router. No. Views. Home global home tag. Div class home tag. Is that what it's called? It's not what it's called. On the home page, we have the two feeds. In the sidebar, we have that. We have a tag list. We have something called RWV tag. And it says for the tags, that's a component. It gets computed tag. in tags. Where does tags come from? There's tag. I wonder if it comes from here. So I don't think there's any error handling. I don't think it checks to see if we have if it has tags or not. Where did RVW tag come from? RWV, sorry. I have no idea where that component comes from. That must, what? No, views. Where do you come from? Oh, at components VTag. Components, VTag. Yeah. So basically the problem is when the page loads and there's no tags in this tag list, that could either mean that it's still trying to load the tags or there just aren't any tags. So you can't reliably wait for a tag to appear. So what I could do is say something like home dot and honestly I can't run wait for exist on multiple. I'd have to do something like that. Hold on. The pollen here is awful right now. So I could wait for these tags, at least one of these tags to exist. But the trouble is I can't because it could just not have any tags. So I'm going to ignore it. Okay. That's that. Whoops. Let's finish up this example so I can go have lunch. Okay. With that data, add a test set in your in the anonymous section, add a new test. I don't need that. Note that this test does chance will fail if the I'm not as concerned here. Already wait for the plus own delay. Wait. Oh, next, add the popular tags parts to your home. Don't want to forget about that in my home page object. selector is a bit convoluted, a bit complex due to the lack of a attribute. Selector is a bit complex due to the lack of QA attribute on either the container or the tags. Instead, so we rely on some XPath to grab home.page. Yes. Okay, with that, add a test that asserts those tags are properly shown in your home test file. In the anonymous section, add the following. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you for joining in, for tuning in and everything. I still have this last set of tests to go, so I don't know when I'm gonna do that, but I thought this was a fine enough format. It kind of forces me to work on these and stay focused on them for longer than 5 seconds, because a lot of times I'll jump in and start working on these examples and then get distracted by, I don't know, Twitter or something less productive. But here I'm not distracted because I can't be, because I have a audience to try and entertain. But anyway, I'm hungry. I'm going to come back soon. I don't know when, but I will finish this public user profile page test. And then I'm going to go back in after that. Let me see on my book to do, complete to do items. Those are kind of done. Complete editing updates. I need to fix some alt text. I really want to get that done. Complete to do items / examples. So I'm going to come in and update this for WebDriver IO version 6. I really want to use the expect WebDriver IO library, which is super cool. I have some other small updates as well. I'll move those down. So this is kind of what I have left to do on my book, which it looks long. It's not really, but it is. So, anyway, thanks for joining in, and I look forward to seeing you. And until next time, have fun testing.